has gone into administration with numerous subcontractors, wondering what on earth are we going to do now? If you are in senior management in construction or the CEO of a construction company, you want to stick around for this discussion. I'm going to discuss the how, the whys, the what to do's when a construction company goes into administration. Hi, I'm Patricia, your favorite construction lawyer on the internet. Some people call me the queen of construction contracts, and I quite like that title. I own it. Welcome. So in January 2023, there was a report that was done, and they found that about 12% of construction companies were in distress in the year previously. Now, some calculate that to be around 80,000 construction companies in the UK. That is a lot. And as you know, that includes small companies and large companies. No one is immune in this industry. So, why is the number so high in construction? We all know and discuss the issues daily. So, here are some. High interest rates. Some companies, due to cash flow issues, borrow money at high interest rates. We have high inflation right now. Everyone is experiencing it. So many products, the prices are just through the roof. Cash flow issues, huge gaps between when the work is done and when the companies get paid. And that funding gap, that I like to call it, or that payment gap is huge, and it creates cash flow issues. Low profit margins. Now, it's not uncommon to hear in the industry that construction companies are making 2% or even less. Just last week, I was reading a financial report of a construction company, and they said that they were earning less than 2% profit margin on their projects. And the domino effect. A lot of these companies operate in large groups, and sometimes the groups aren't managed properly. So a member of the group goes under, and they all go under. And these are just some of the reasons. I'm sure that you can come up with a lot more that contribute to construction companies going into administration. What happens in reality is that the construction company is in the midst of a project. They're delivering a construction project when they go under, leaving the employer or the client. In construction, we call the client the employer, and the subcontractors really in a state of distress. Everybody is just not knowing what to do next. So I want to discuss how that affects the subcontractor today. I'm only going to look at subcontractors today. So I'm going to discuss these 5 things. First is, what is administration? What happens when the company is in administration? How do you know if a company is in distress or going to be in distress? What can you do right now if you're a subcontractor in a situation where your main contractor is in administration, and what you should do going forward? So, what is administration? When a company goes into administration, it means that they have appointed a licensed insolvency practitioner to come in and take over the administration of the business. These are highly qualified people who are recognized in the industry for their expertise. They know what they're doing. This person will try to achieve many things, including rescuing the business, because ultimately they want the business to turn around itself. They want the business to live and trade another day. So this person, let's call her Mary because I like the name Mary. Mary will put a statutory moratorium in place, and this is what you call like a period of breathing. There's like a duration of time to allow the company and Mary to breathe. Because imagine that the company is in distress, they've gone into administration, everybody's running around like headless chicken, and Mary comes in and she just needs this breathing space for everyone in the business so that everyone can put on their thinking hats and think strategically. When you are in flight, you're in fear, you're running around like, oh my God, what is happening? What is happening? You can't think strategically. So this is what Mary does by putting that moratorium in place. It is the time during which creditors should not be enforcing anything against the company. So it gives the company an opportunity to think and not worry about paying all its bills, which is a huge issue for them. Mary then has enough time to do her job and come up with a plan of action for the company to sort itself out, which is why sometimes you hear of a company going under and then magically they're sold to company Y, who then resuscitates them. We've heard the story so many times where company X went under and then all of a sudden you heard, oh, they were bought out by so and so. This is what that period does. It allows the company to really think and come up with alternative solutions so that if they can find a buyer, they can find some resource somewhere to help them to live and trade another day. I like to call this period the lucky window because the directors are secretly hoping for a miracle. Yes, they are. Especially when it's like a family owned business, it's been around for decades, or it's a large brand with a solid brand, and they absolutely want someone like a knight in shining armor to swoop in and save them, save the day. But the problem in construction companies is that they're notorious for low project profit margins. So the knight in shining armor, he doesn't come around often looking for construction companies, sadly. Sadly. I think he much prefers tech companies. Yes. I think he prefers tech companies because at least they can get research, R&D grants. They can get a lot of capital injection. They do rounds, of funding, and they can get millions and multi-millions of dollars and pounds before anyone expects a return on their investment. So he much prefers those companies. Anyway, administration allows the construction company to continue trading. And this is ideal because it means that the company can continue to earn money in the hope that it will be enough to take them out of administration. In reality, this rarely happens in construction because once again, the profit margins are so low that it turns out to be a wish and a dream that is never fulfilled. So what happens when the company goes into administration? Okay, so now I want to turn to some details. Okay. At some point, it will become clear to Mary that the company cannot be rescued. So Mary will come up with a proposal that will be voted on by the creditors of the company. And sometimes, and I mean most times, at this stage, the proposal will allow for the sale of some or all of the company's assets. And at this point, the company will enter into liquidation. Like ICE, Mary is going to attempt to convert the company's assets from one form to another, from a solid to a liquid, i.e., from assets to cash. Because remember, the company is having a cash flow problem. And so, like water, Mary needs the cash to flow. And to make the cash to flow, obviously, it needs to become liquid because only liquid flows freely. Which is why when you, as the CEO of your construction company, convert all your cash into assets, you have no flow. And then you enter into a cash flow problem and you start edging onto a company in distress. And it seems like a simple thing, but so many businesses in construction do it where they take their cash and they invest it in assets, particularly in the UK, in London, where asset like property, for example, is you can get a good return on your capital investment in property. So a lot of construction companies will invest in properties, but then it ties up your money. And so if you're going to do that, then you need to have a cash flow source. But this is a discussion for a whole other day. So Mary is going to try liquidity. Why liquidity? Well, because the company is owning Peter and Paul. You know, we say rob Peter to pay Paul. Yeah, the company's owing Peter and Paul and they want their money. Not to mention the loads of other people in the supply chain, including the subcontractor, who want their money as well. Imagine it being like a run on the company. You know, like how you have a run on the bank, you have a run on the company, and that is taking place. And you're wondering how can it be a run on the company? Well, long before you saw it in the press, long before you saw it in the media, in the newspapers, online, subbies in the streets were aware that this company is in distress and that they're going to go into administration. Yes. And they would have started running after their lawyers, clamoring for help to deal with, what's going to happen. So how do you know if a company is going to be in distress? How do you know that a company is moving towards entering administration? And I get that question so often. Okay, you will know because of a number of reasons, and I'm just going to give you some of them. You should have done your due diligence on the company. A company doesn't enter distress overnight. It's a gradual process. When you do background checks, for example, on the company, you would have seen that they have issues around their financials. And how do you find this information? There are companies that do credit checks for you. You pay them and they do credit checks on different companies. Or simply go to company's house and download their financial reports and read them. Read them. They tell you a lot. And so if you, for example, with Readie right now in administration, if you did a simple background check on them, you would have realized that they have more liabilities than they did assets, meaning they had more debt than assets. So if they sold the assets, it probably wouldn't cover the debt anyways. And we call this their debt ratio. So a debt ratio measures the amount of leverage used by a company in terms of total debt to total assets. And if your debt ratio, for example, is 90%, it means that for every pound, every £1 or $1 that you have, 90 cents or 90 pence of that is owed to someone else. That's what it means. So a company with a debt ratio higher than 100% is a company that you absolutely want to reconsider doing business with, or even if you're going to do business with them, you want to put certain measures in place or mitigation that if they do go into administration, you have a plan of action. So if you do just a simple check of Readie, for example, they had a debt ratio of around 97%, 95%, 97%, depending on who you check, but it's freely there online. You pay and you can see it. So another telltale sign is payment issues. Subbies would have started having payment problems with the main contractor, and this is always an indication of cash flow issues. And it's also an indicator of creditors getting tight on them, because before they could easily run off to the bank, for example, get some money for payroll or to cover subcontractor costs for this period, but no longer can they do that. So their creditors now are getting tight on them. Payment issues can include like changes in payment patterns. So they're not paying on a monthly basis like they used to, or per period. As we do in construction, they're not paying for the milestones that you've accomplished under the contract, or excuses for late or non-payment. They have lots of excuses. Like every time you ask them, where's my payment? They have an excuse. Increase in payless notices. You'll find that contractors then start getting very strict on your payment applications and checking and querying things and trying to take things out because they just don't have the money to pay. There'll be a lot of disputes around change orders and variations that they agreed with you, but then all of a sudden they're finding technical reasons as to why it is not an issue for them, why they shouldn't have to foot the bill. Other indicators include company restructuring. You'll hear it so much, especially when it's a group setting where the group is restructuring. They're going to downsize, for example, or they're going to focus on certain areas and let go of certain areas of business, letting go of staff or not paying staff. And this is a huge one in construction where on the site, because you'll be sat on site together as a group, you will hear murmurs. You will hear staff murmurs. You will hear other subbies or consultants, because in construction we use a lot of consultants, like self-employed people. You will hear murmurs like, they're not paying me right, I'm not getting paid on time, and listen to those murmurs. There'll be a lot of adverse media coverage around like the order book or just certain things coming out, not only in the professional media, for example, but even on social media. You will, especially now, you will hear people start calling them out on social media. I haven't been paid. This is happening, or they owe us. And look out for those things. They start cutting spend, and if they're selling their shares, for example, you see falling share prices. And there are myriad of other indicators. These are just some. So what can you do right now? If you are a subcontractor and your main contractor have gone into administration, what can you do right now? Here are some things that you can consider. So Mary would have provided some details and information that you need to contact her. Contact Mary and let her know you are a subcontractor, you have some outstanding invoices or application for payments, there are some issues here, you need your money. Let Mary know. Follow the process that Mary has set and let Mary know. But to do that, you need to understand how much is outstanding. Make sure you know how much money the company owes you and that you have documentation to back it up. We see it so many times where the subcontractor has not been properly recording work done. They haven't been sending in their application for payments on time. They haven't been substantiated, for example, variations, the cost of things. And so then it becomes such a messy situation when the company goes into administration and they're trying to prove that they've been owed this money. And then the company say, no, you weren't owed this money. We all know that story. And you want to do that because it may be possible to suspend works for non-payment. And also you just want Mary to know, hey, I'm here, add me to the list of people they owe. This is what they owe me. Okay. The next thing I'm going to want you to do is to go to the government website. The government has a website for all legislation, all statutes and acts, and get a copy of the Corporate Insolvency and Governance Act. I'm going to call this SIGA for short. Get a copy of SIGA. SIGA requires that contracts for supply of goods and services continue to be performed while the contractor is in administration. This is a general statement I'm making. So you will likely have to carry on working on the project. If you think about it, it makes perfect sense because Mary wants the company to continue trading in the hope that it will recover or get some money that will help it to turn around. I know it sucks for you as the subby, but there are exceptions and workarounds, SIGA. So you need to go and get a copy of the act yourself and read it. If you don't have a lawyer, that is. Run and pull out your contract out of the drawer. In construction, we have this habit of putting the contract in the drawer and we think, oh, it is so great to say, I just put my contract in the drawer. I never look at it. People think like it's a badge of honor. It is not. It is not. Right? So if you have your contract in the drawer, please go and get it. Okay, each contract will be different and you need to know what yours says. For example, do you have retention of title? At what point does title pass to the contractor? So you know if there's anything there that you can claim the title to, and you can tell Mary about this. Mary, this title hasn't been passed to the contractor because they have not paid. So you need to go and read your contract. If you have subbies, you need to check their contracts as well. Can you terminate? Can you suspend? What can you do so that you can stop incurring costs with these subcontractors that you have? So those are some of the things that you can start doing right now if you're in a situation where your main contractor is in administration. Those are just some things that you can do. What is likely going on above? I want to touch on this a little bit. I want to tell you that typically there will be a main contract above you. So here will be the ultimate client or employer. Here will be the main contractor, and this is where you will be, right? And just know that at this level with the employer and the employer or the client and the main contractor, that things are going on above there too. Above you, a lot of activities taking place. So don't feel like you're in this alone. Also, there are tons of other subcontractors at your level who are in this state as well, wondering what on earth is going to happen to me and my business and my company. So you are not alone. I would say understand and reach out to other subcontractors as well, to get that support network, as well as understand that at the top things are happening. So the client or the employer may have some stepping rights that they're trying to activate or to navigate under their main contract. It may say if main contractor goes into administration, you can step into the contract they have with you. So it may say that, and they may be looking at how to do that, or they may be looking to terminate your contract on the basis that the main contractor has gone into administration. So they're looking at all different solutions as well. So it's not just you that is going through this issue. Okay, so you should take some comfort in that you are not in it alone. I know it's a hard place to be, but you're not in it alone. So what should you do going forward? Okay, listen. Your cash flow relies on getting paid on time for work done. So you need to increase your ability to detect if your main contractor is going under, if your employer is going under. You need to develop like spider skills, like superpowers. Your spidey skills need to be on point, right? Because your business depends on it. Because it could mean the difference between your business success and your business failure. And because it is not uncommon to see a domino effect in construction where main contractor goes under and a list of subcontractors go under as well because they depended on this main contractor for their livelihood. That is not uncommon. You do not want to be a casualty, okay? So here are some things that you can do to set yourself up going forward. Or if you are a subcontractor and you've never experienced a main contractor going into administration, count yourself lucky and put some things in place. So if it ever happens, you have a plan. Build a cash reserve. Remember, I said liquidity is key and cash is liquid. I know so many construction companies that invest in assets, as I said before, leaving little to no cash. They depend on robbing Peter to pay Paul or creditors to fund payroll for example, or to pay their subcontractors. You need to build up a cash reserve. The same way you do for your personal life and for your family, where you have that cash reserve, is the same way in your business. You need to build up a cash reserve. You need to then understand the credit ratings of the people that you're going to work with, your counterparty. You cannot have a portfolio of projects with contractors or counterparties that have a very high debt ratio. Imagine if you have 5 projects and all your counterparties or the people that you contract with for that project, like the main contractor or the employer, imagine if all 5 of them had a debt ratio of 98% or 95% or 97%. All of them could go bust tomorrow and you are left high and dry. So you want to ensure that there is balance in your portfolio with the credit rating of your counterparties. You also want to have a robust application for payment process. You need to understand what your contract says about payment, how the payment process works, and you need to work it and be consistent with it. It is not uncommon to work with construction companies or to find construction companies that they are not billing consistently. They're not submitting their application for payments consistently. They're not sending it in on the date that is required under the contract. And you want to do that because it also builds a case. If you've been doing it on time consistently and they have not been paying you consistently, it builds a case. But if you are haphazard with it, then they can very well say, oh, but you don't submit on time anyways. That's why we're late with our payments. So make sure you have a robust application for payment process or invoicing process. Have insurance in place to cover late or non-payment. And for this, you need to seek expert insurance advice. I always say, seek expert insurance advice. There are insurance coverages that you can have for all myriad of things. And I know at first it seems like a lot. Oh, I'm wasting money on this, but in the end, these things always come back to help you, like in these situations. Okay. So here's a recap. Don't panic. I know you want to panic. This is your livelihood. This is your business. You have like tons of people working under your business that you are responsible for their monthly income. I understand this, but do not panic. As a leader, you need to be the steady hand that steady the ship and say to everyone, they're in administration. Yes, we are out of pocket X amount, but we are going to sit down together, put our thinking hats on, come up with some alternative solutions, and we are going to implement them. That's what you need to do. Do not panic. Start collating your documents. Everything that you can about this project, start collecting them. It from your site reports, site diaries, or your application for payments, everything that substantiates your contract variations or changes. Just start putting together everything because you never know what Mary may need and you never know what you need and how far this will go. Get a copy of the SIGA. It's free online. You can print it in your office. Go and get a copy of it, read it, understand what it says. If you don't, contact a lawyer to help you. Find your construction contract. If you don't have it, your construction contract should be beside you every single day. If you're a commercial director, quantity surveyor, commercial lead, your construction contract should be on your desk every single day right beside you. If you don't, go and find your construction contract and you need to find the one that was executed by both parties. Okay? Tip. Sit down with your team and understand how this may impact your business. It is not uncomfortable for some construction companies not even to know how this is going to affect their bottom line. They're just running around all mad and crazy and they don't even have a grasp on what it means for their bottom line. So you need to sit down with your commercial director, your finance, accountant, whoever, and understand the impact that this may have on your business so you can drive home the reality and really just start taking action. And then find alternatives available to you under the law and your contract. What can you do right now? That's what you want to know. And you can only know that from the law and from your contract. That's it. And then the next step is going to be take the lessons that you've learned during this process, write them down, and implement them going forward. Another company going into administration should not catch you the same way this one did. You should have learned some things and put some things in place that proves and shows that you've learned the lesson. So I'll be doing a video on the employer and how the main contractor going into administration will affect the employer. So look out for that video. I hope this was helpful for you. If so, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe for more content. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I really appreciate you.